Okay, so today we're going to talk about industrialization. And if you need to look in your book, it's going to be pages 308 to 312. Industrialization. Here's the vocabulary for this PowerPoint. This vocabulary needs to be put into your vocabulary section of your notebook. Remember, it's labeled, it's the very last tab in your notebook. Your vocabulary is raw materials, free enterprise, laissez-faire, and entrepreneur. Make sure if you don't know what these words mean that you write them down in your own words, or you can use my definitions, whichever one works best for you. Important names are Alexander Graham Bell and Thomas Edison. They both invented major things that helped progress the industrialization of America. Here's a little reminder. Industrialization is the growth of industries, so we're talking about factories and anything else dealing with industry, mass producing things. The Industrial Revolution actually began in England and moved to the U.S. in the early 1800s. By the early 1900s, the U.S. was the leading industrialized nation. I gave you a little timeline to help you figure out what was going on. So these are some of the dates that we've already gone over. If you notice, in 1800, you see that's when the Industrial Revolution begins. And then we have the Civil War. But notice, just because we had the Civil War, that did not stop us from growing our industries. And then by the 1900s, we have, sorry about that, we have the U.S. leading all nations in industrialized products. So why was the U.S. so ready to be the leading industrialized country? You have many reasons. One of those is the abundance of raw materials, such as water, timber, coal, iron, copper, and petroleum. Petroleum was actually mass-produced to use as in kerosene lamps. Edwin Drake was actually the first person to drill oil and started the oil boom. Then we have the settlement of the West was a big reason why we became the most industrialized country, and the Transcontinental Railroad. Now, the Transcontinental Railroad did two things. It sent settlers and miners to the west, and it sent all the raw materials and goods back to the east. So the Transcontinental Railroad was a big deal. And the next reason was the large workforce. The U.S. actually tripled its population from 1870 to 1910, and there were a couple of reasons for that. You had people having very large families, and you also had a huge influx of immigrants coming to the U.S. This large workforce, not only did you have lots of people who could work, but you had lots of people who needed to buy goods, so this actually helped increase the economy also. You have some more reasons why the U.S. became the leading industrialized country. The next reason was free enterprise and laissez-faire economics. All this meant was that people felt, if you were a supporter of laissez-faire economics, that you felt that the government needed to stay out of business affairs and let the people choose, which is the actual translation of laissez-faire, choose how the government or the economy spend its wealth. So this was all driven by private people and using private business and the government staying out of it. So low taxes, all of that good stuff. Large trade area. The U.S. was able to trade with many countries, and they had a large number of people buying things. So large trade area, and then new inventions. The new inventions there were lots of new inventions, but the new inventions that really spurred industrialization were the telephone and the electric light bulb. The telephone was invented by Alexander Graham Bell, and he actually started a school for the deaf. He did lots of things with sound waves and sending electric currents through wires. So he wanted to invent something that sent your voice through a telegraph machine, and he ended up inventing the telephone, and that helped spur business. Also, the electric light bulb allowed people to stay up later and be more productive, and that was perfected by Edison. You need to check your notes and make sure they look like mine. Remember, you want to have nice, neat notes that you can actually read, and make sure you can actually use them for the assignment tomorrow. And that's the end. Have a great day. Bye.